Hello, guys, welcome back to another podcast of the Jay Thakkar Show. Today, my mentor, Mr. Abhijit Pradhan, is going to solve your and my problem on how to achieve our goals. We generally face many problems during the journey of how to achieve our goals. But today, we have a solution. My mentor, Mr. Abhijit Pradhan, India's biggest executive coach, is gonna come here and help us and guide us through this journey, and he's also going to give us a few tips, strategies, plans, and many more things to help us in this journey. So let us all welcome my mentor, Mr. Abhijit Pradhan, on the Jay Thakkar Show. So yesterday when we were discussing questions which we got from our stories, you said that people are going to go for how of goals, but we also need to know that the connection between what, how, and why of goals. So can you please explain and tell us in detail about what are those connections and how can they help us in achieving our goals?
Okay, so there's a lot of content out there on goals. Okay, and by the way, Jay, thanks again for inviting me on your interview, this chat. And I must clarify my introduction. I am not anything biggest in India. I am one of the many coaches out there. So I think I would just like to kind of clarify that. I mean, it's very kind of you to call me that, but hey, yeah. But I have been doing coaching for at least 11 years. I have been in the corporate sector before that for 16 years. So I can say that I have a lot of experience. So yes, fair enough. I hope that kind of helps, all the viewers and listeners today. So coming back to your question, yeah. I hope now you guys can see this. 1 second. Yeah. So just have a look at the first word. Before anyone gets into goals, how to make goals happen, how to achieve goals, I think people have to understand one word: system. Okay? And what do I mean by that? Nothing exists in life without being a part of a system. Okay? So we are not living in vacuum. Everything that we do is connected and is affected by everything else. When we realize that, you will realize why effectiveness in getting your goals achieved is so linked to this basic concept. Okay, so let's try and understand this. Okay, and what does the system mean? See, we are individuals. We may have a lot of motivation, but we are individuals who are part of either a family. We are individuals part of a school, part of a college, part of an organization, and in that we are a part of that entire picture. And in that picture, everything is affecting everything. Okay, so while your goal is something that you are, let's say, in charge of, it is getting affected by all these different variables. So one needs to understand what each one's system is. Okay, so awareness is very, very important of one's own system. All right, so before we get into the why and the what and the how, Jay, I'm going to jump into something. I love doing this, right? Charts, diagrams. It reminds you of your teachers in your school. Okay, don't worry, this is the only theory that we're going to kind of get into. This is something called, I don't know if people have heard of this, it's called a Johari window. Okay, the Johari window is nothing but different ways we are aware of ourselves. Okay, I'll explain that. You can see this clearly, Jay? I hope everyone else also can. Okay, so if you look at the top, okay, there is what is known to me, what is not known to me. Okay, and on this side you can see what is known to others, what is not known to others. Okay, so before we get into goal setting, this is about understanding your system, understanding your ecosystem, your environment, or whatever it is. Okay, now this is the easiest one. This is known to me, it's known to others. It could be known to me, known to my parents, known to my teachers, etc. This is open, it's out there. Yeah, this is clear. There's no issue here. Alright? It could be things that people know about you, you know about yourself. It could be your strengths, your skills, your passions, and everybody knows about that, which is fine. Okay? Now, they could be things which are not known to others but known to you. So maybe you have some hidden passions which you're not sharing with people. Yeah. So that also is part of your system. Okay. Now comes the interesting part. Now, this is where a lot of reasons why goals don't get achieved. Okay. Because we are not aware of what is called the blind spots. Okay. Now, what does that mean? These could be things known to others, which means people know you well, but you don't necessarily know that about yourself. You're not aware of these things. Okay. So maybe, for example, somebody is very prone to getting angry when things don't happen the way they're supposed to happen. And your parents know that, your teachers know that, your friends know that, but you're not aware of that. Okay? Now, that is called a blind spot. Now, a blind spot, if you're not aware of, it can come in the way of your goal. Right? Are you getting this, Jay? And please, you also ask me any question on this. So it's very important to first pull back and understand in your own system what could be your blind spots. Because we all operate from here and here. It's fine, it's easy. But we don't realize that what could be actually potential, tripping point, etc., traps, and that's where the blind spot is. An even more interesting area, which is actually very difficult to know, is not known to you and not known to others. So, for example, maybe you're getting into a whole new field. It's a new, you want a new educational subject, which the people around you don't know anything about. You don't know, and then that can become a very grey area. So it's not a blind spot because nobody knows. Yeah. So one needs to keep these basic variables. This is like putting on the hat of awareness. Yeah. So before I set my goals, I need to understand my system. What could come in the way? What do I not know? What does nobody know? Okay. And maybe I need to know that so that I don't fall into any traps tomorrow. Yeah. And similarly with the blind spots. So this is where the real values lies. This is where there is awareness from your side. This hidden part is something that you may choose to say, okay, maybe people don't know about this about me, but maybe I need to now do something about people knowing, so these are different implications of knowing your system. Yeah. Is this clear, Jay?
Correct. Yes, 100%.
Okay. So let me now go back to the original thing of the system. Okay. So once we know the Johari window, which is the basic different ways we are aware of ourselves and our environment affecting us. Okay. Then I figure out what are my goals. Okay.
Right.
Now, most people start here and then they start acting on them, and then there are different kinds of reactions. Some people reach them, okay? A lot of people don't, and there's a lot of frustration when they don't. And interestingly, some people reach the goals but don't feel satisfied.
Yeah.
Why do you think that happens, Jay?
Because I think when they ultimately reach that point, they come to know that this is not what I was striving for. There was some kind of fascination towards money or fame which was there and which led me through it, and then after that I came to know that that fascination or that lust don't exist now. So I don't feel happy now.
So there is nothing wrong in money, fame being your goal, but now here is where the most interesting part of the question why comes. Okay, this is about clarifying your goal. Now you may be doing something because, hey, I want to be an engineer, I want to be an MBA, because that's what successful people do in today's times. Okay, now maybe in today's crazy scenarios, you want to be a doctor, or you want to be something in the pharma kind of industry, etc. But that is something which is outside of you. Okay. Now the why is what is your reason within that. So I want money. Great, because everybody who gets money is able to kind of do things. But what is your reason? And that why is very important to qualify. Okay. So I'll give you an example of 3 people having the same goal. Okay. Let's say 3 people, all 3 want to lose weight. Let's say 10 kilos. Yeah, I'd taken this example the last time when we spoke. But now, if you really go deep into the motivation behind those 3 different goals, you will find maybe the person number one is the real reason is to attract the right person in that person's life. Okay?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's one. Second is the reason why that person wants to lose 10 kilos of weight is to get confidence at his or her work. Okay? Or third, the reason why the person wants to lose 10 kilos of weight is actually to turn his or her health around. So if you look at it, when you ask this question why, the true goal reveals itself. And that is very important. Okay? So in this case, in the three people's different goals that we kind of try to understand, the three goals are actually not the 10 kilos of weight, but how to attract the right person in my life. Second, how do I gain confidence in what I do professionally, etc. And third, how do I turn my health around? So if you realize that we don't articulate what our goals actually should be, and which is why the why filter is very important for us to clarify. You may still end up with the goal of 10 kilos, but now you know why you're losing those 10 kilos. So you may still end up on the goal of I want more fame and all that, but you know why you want to get fame. You know why you want the money. Because if you don't connect with your why, somewhere you will lose interest in your goal. And then if the goal is only to serve the external and not yourself, it's very difficult for you to sustain motivation in achieving that goal. Yeah. So that's very important for us to understand. So the starting point, as they say, well begun is half done. So this part is the well begun. Because if you get this right, then the pressure is not so much on the balance and the execution of that. Yeah?
Correct.
Okay. So any questions on the what and the why, Jay?
No.
Okay. So if you're okay with that, let's go to 3 more questions I've written below that.
Yeah,
Okay?
sure.
So once I'm clear about the what are my real goals, okay? This is where the system comes in. Okay? The system is about when, who, and how. Okay? So while, yes, we did speak about the how, we also, by the way, spoke about the who. I forgot that there is also a when. And what does when mean, by the way? When is also timing. Sometimes it's not the right time to do something. So one needs to just figure out, okay, this is a good time or it's not a good time. Okay, so one needs to be clear about that as well. Yeah? So sometimes an idea is ahead of its time. Okay? So maybe, like now the timing is right for people to get into the health sector, pharma sector, medical sector. You get the point? So there's a very clear when supporting this part, right? The who. Now the who is your ecosystem. The who is people who are within your inner circle. It could be your friends, family. It could be outside teachers, professors. It could be your employers or potential employers, etc., etc. Right? In your case, you run this channel. It could be your influencers. The people who you are reaching out to, your audience. Okay, all of those people. Now, when, who, and then finally the how. Okay. So again, going back to the window, the Johari window, right? When I know things that I didn't realize that this timing is wrong. That could be that if you remember that variable where I don't know, nobody else knows. Okay. So we need to keep pulling back, answering this question of, is this something that I know? Is it a blind spot? Is it something that nobody knows about? Is this something that I know, but others know, which is fine. Others know, I don't know, etc., etc. So when I go through the process of proper clarification of my awareness, it helps me come out with a better execution plan on whatever your goal is. I've clarified what the goal is, and second is this is the execution part of the goal. Yeah. So this is the last, the second part of the system, right, of achieving any goal. Okay. So on to you, Jay. Any questions? I have a lot of questions actually yesterday for me. So
Yeah. So the next question is that now when we know that what our goal, we have included our why. then you said timing is very important. So for many people who are young like me, who are just starting, for them we are like, when we have idea, we just want to implement it. So how can we figure out that which timing is correct for me?
See, the reason for articulating these different things is to be aware that am I conscious of the timing factor or not? Does it affect my decision or my goal? Sometimes it may not affect, that is fine. But it's like a checklist, right? It's like, is there a timing issue or not? Because see, once you're clear about it, then you can move on to the next variable. Yeah. So let's say, for example, timing is not an issue; it's a non-issue in your case. Let's say, okay. Then let's get into who. Now, in the who, like I said, it's your ecosystem, your supporters. It could be people according to you who are not your supporters. See, just remember one thing: a goal, again, in execution cannot happen in isolation. Okay. In fact, the more support you get for your goal, the easier it will be to reach that goal. So it is not ultimately entirely up to you. You know, if your support system is going to be there behind you, trust me, your goal will get achieved. But if you find a lot of obstacles and things, then you need to go back to the same question of, why are they opposed to my goal? What is their reason? So maybe my parents are saying something, I need to understand that. And then maybe I realize my why, and maybe I need them to understand my why. Maybe there is a need to come up with a third solution, which is neither mine 100% and not their 100%. Samjhota jo bolte na, compromise or whatever it is. Ultimately, you need to work towards a win-win situation. And a win-win situation happens when you have alignment in your life. And when you have alignment in your life, you will achieve what you need to achieve. So it's important to get this early on in life. See, it's like this, right? You can't go against your professors. You can't go against your employers tomorrow. You have to align them. They have to see your goal the way you see it. So another important part of goals is, I would say, communicating your goals to others.
Correct.
Yeah, and the intent of your goal. See, somebody sees it as, oh, he just wants to lose 10 kilos and he doesn't want you to lose 10 kilos. But then when you talk about the importance of confidence or the importance of, whatever the other 3 goals were, right? If you remember, then they say, oh, that's why you're doing that. Then there's alignment, there's understanding between them. And then therefore, hopefully support. Right? Are you getting this part? So who is very, very critical for you to get to your goal. Yeah? Once you've cleared the when and the who, right? Then it's the how. The how is your best way of making things happen. So, example, some people operate very well with checklists and monitoring it every single hour. Maybe they're OCD and they want to keep checking, measuring and all of that. Some people just like to leave it and say, okay, we will wait for the next milestone. Some people, may have a different way of achieving. So, some people like to do it with people, which means that they like to do it as a group activity. Some people like to do it all alone, saying, I don't want any interference from anybody. So, that becomes your how. Right? Now, even if you were that person who wants to do it all alone, don't want interference, but you might then realize that if I didn't get the who in place, I might be again setting my goal up for failure. So one needs to be clear about your checklist and see what is coming in my way, what is helping me reach there. Do I have a plan for it? That's all. It's about awareness, nothing else.
And one thing which I have recently learned from an interview of Zakir Khan, where he said that even if you think that society is trying to pull your legs down, no one wants you to fly. When people generally say that people are jealous of me, so they are not supporting me or they are not allowing me to. But in general, how our society works is everyone wants us to be in a safer system where no one wants you to fall down so badly that you cannot even able to get up on your own legs. So I think from what many questions I have received, that they are mostly aggressive questions that many people are pulling me down. Many people don't want me to reach to a certain point, or many people want me to go through their own way. Especially people are telling me that my parents want me to go through this through the system, and if I get time I can do my interest or work simultaneously. But then from what I have seen is that everyone wants you to be at least have your one leg on the safer side, so that you won't fall so deep that no one will able to catch you up. So is this theory correct, or what else you want to add up on this, so that aggression comes down and people tend to talk more and connect with people to explain what they want and why they don't want any interference?
So it's not either or. Okay. You remember we started with this. This is your anchor in life. Now, when you're clear about the reason for your goals, the why, that becomes your biggest motivation. Okay. So let's say you're clear about why you're doing a certain thing. Okay. Whatever it is. It means that maybe, hey, I feel as a student, a lot of other students go through this. Why should we students go through that? It's a genuine pain point. You want to do something about it and you feel it very passionate. Okay? So that's your why. Alright? Whatever it is. Now, then you evaluate your scenario. You evaluate your ecosystem. And you find, like you said, that most people don't recognize that because they want to play safe. They want you to play safe because they don't know any other way. See, you have to understand that people come from their perspective, which is why understanding their why is also very important. Now, maybe you're able to convince them, great. Or let's say, in your example, you're not able. But at least you then know what is it that's coming in the way, and then you can have a strategy around it. The strategy could be, dear mom and dad, I get what you want from me. Here's a solution. I will do what you're asking me to do. Allow me a little space to do my bit also. And if you feel that it can reach somewhere, okay, and if it reaches something substantial and meaningful, maybe let's give it a year, 2 years or whatever, then support me in that. But I will do both. For example, I'm just giving you. So it's a strategy which keeps in mind that entire Johari window of what are the blind spots, what is coming in the way, what do I not realize, all of that. Who is with me? Why are they with me? Why are they not with me? So then I plan for them. If you don't plan for your goals to get achieved, you will unfortunately be setting yourself up for failure. I mean, it will be luck which will get you there, but preparation is far more important, as they say, than just luck. So it's important that preparation meets luck, or preparation actually creates luck. So this is really about, rather than looking at it as a big mysterious picture, breaking it down into things that you can actually split into areas you can address. So then you are far more in control, rather than, oh my god, I will never get there, I have no support. Whereas, no, it's important to be specific. What is it that's not giving me the support? Who is not giving me the support? Why are they not giving me the support? What are their reasons and how could I address them? So it's very important to get from general to specific. Because the more you make it specific, the far more achievable anything can be. I want to be successful is not a goal. I want to somehow come up with a vaccine in a way nobody else has could be a far more specific thing. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
So you have to be far more specific in your goal. So one more rule, to add to this slightly complicated diagram is the goal has to be specific.
Okay.
A broad ambiguous goal will not help you get anywhere. I want to climb Mount Everest is a specific goal. I want to climb Mount Everest before I turn X age is an even more specific goal. I want to run a marathon before I turn, so it becomes specific. And one more thing, from a scientific perspective, from a brain neuroscience perspective, our subconscious brain, which is what actually helps us execute and achieve and all that, needs specific. It needs a goal to be specific. So, for example, they've tested out two different athletes. Athlete number one, they said, hey, go ahead and run as fast as you can. Okay. The second athlete, they said, run and break this speed and time limit. So, with a specific thing. Okay. So, when I have a tangible target, what happens? It's like a goal, right? Like in a football or a cricket game, you have a goal. You have a run score. You're aiming at something. You can't just say go and play well. That is not the point, right? You need to get those two goals. You need to get that run, those run rate or whatever it is. So it's very important. So the athlete who had a specific goal, they actually ran faster because then the subconscious brain had something very tangible to work towards. Okay. So again, go back to the system. Okay, and the last part of the how, okay, I'm going to show you as a coach. I don't know if you can read this title, but this is one of the first books that I was recommended to read, when I became a coach 11 years ago. It's by Robert Fritz. It's called The Path of Least Resistance. Okay, it's a mind-blowing book, very heavy, not in terms of weight, but in terms of content. But it's a very simple thing. Human beings ultimately always, in default, always follow the path of least resistance. You might show initiative, you might show effort and motivation, but ultimately we all go to the path of least resistance. So you need to design your system in a way that the resistance is minimized. Alright? So, because what happens with resistance, there's tension. It's like, he gives this example of a rubber band. You take it, you'll stretch it, but ultimately, that tension needs to get resolved. The rubber band will come back to its original. So, you need to work at that level. You need to realize that if I don't allow it to be smooth and easy, it's not going to happen. Right? So, I think you asked me this question yesterday on should I break my goal into smaller goals and habits, right? Something you spoke about? Okay. Yeah. So, so one part is specific. The other part is, again, a big goal. If it's too big, again, is very difficult to work on. So, there is this whole thing of creating habits. I don't know if you know the science of habits. Subconscious works with habits. Okay? It's like an autopilot. I've given the subconscious the direction, the what. I've given the right motivation, the why. Okay? And now I'm giving you steps. Step 1. Go in front of the mirror in the morning. Step 2. Take out the toothbrush. Step 3. Put the toothpaste on the brush. Yeah? So these are very specifics. Okay? Now, you don't think in the morning, should I be brushing my teeth today? Think about this. Does it need to be a goal? Maybe it was a goal for your parents, right, in the beginning. Yeah? But today, it's a habit. Correct? So, path of least resistance needs a lot of your goals and the actions to get to your goals to become automated habits. And that's how you help achieve your goal. So, in fact, 80% of it needs to be on autopilot. But you need to design it then. Because if I give the wrong instructions and habits, I'll end up in some other direction. You're getting the point? So, I need to know what is the direction. So, for example, let's say I want to start running a marathon. Okay? So, step 1, get up early in the morning. Step 2, take out my jogging, shorts and t-shirt, and things like that, and lay it on the chair. So when I wake up in the morning, I see them.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, so you're prepping yourself to make that habit become an automated habit. Slowly. Okay, so a couple of years back, and this is something everybody, okay, whoever I have taken them through this concept, they have really benefited. Okay, there is a book now called Tiny Habits, Tiny, Tiny. Okay, there's a behavioral scientist called B.J. Fogg, Fogg. He works in Stanford, and in fact, before he even came out with the book, I had heard about his concept many years ago, and I used to use it in my workshops and all of that. What is a tiny habit? He says that, look, everybody has a goal. I want to do 20 minutes of yoga. It's a very good thing to do. Arey, sab log kar rahe hain aajkal, and all of that. So what hai? Why? Okay, maybe because I also want to be like my wife, whatever it is, but you need to know your correct why. Otherwise, if you're just following the whole world and because the PM is saying do yoga, that cannot be your reason. You have to find your reason also, right? Okay, so I have now defined my reason. But now 20 minutes of yoga, ek din kar liya, second din kar liya, and then bhul gaya. And then something came up, then things got busy, and then one whole week went and no yoga, right? So what does BJ Fogg say? Don't take on a large goal like that. No, get up in the morning, do 20 minutes of yoga. He says, do 1 minute of yoga. That's it. Tiny habit. Okay, so that's insight number 1. Insight number 2, which is even more powerful. Anchor that tiny habit to an existing habit which is already happening. Okay? So, I'll give you an example. A couple of years back, I had attempted to write a book. And in that journey, the most interesting thing for me was the research. I interviewed a lot of people on what makes them successful, what comes in their way. So all of this, by the way, I'm sharing with you, comes from all those kinds of conversations, etc. This incidentally included people from sports people like Leander Pace to Shamak Dawar to international people. So there were some 150 people I interviewed. So a lot of what I have done is not just from my coaching, but a lot of research that I went into this book, which was supposed to be called Superstar Code. But anyway, coming back to the simple goal that I had to achieve was to write the first draft of the book. Okay, and the research was exciting, interviewing people was exciting, understanding what made them click and stick was very exciting. Writing the draft was absolutely boring. So I had a problem with the how, right? So the what was clear, the why was clear, all that was great, but the how, huge problem. So tiny habit is what saved me. Okay, so I used to have a habit. This is about 8 or 7-8 years back. I used to have a habit of having tea. I discovered tea. Okay? So, and tea, I'm talking about whole leaf tea, not the milk sugar kind of variety. So I used to drink my tea as to make it. It became a ritual to have it, let's say, in the morning. Then I say that this is an existing anchored habit. So what I will do is, when I have my tea, I will write one paragraph of my book. One paragraph. That's it. Wow. Okay? Because what I used to do earlier, the mistake, I used to write 2, 3 pages, 4 pages, 10 pages, and then and then get bored and I will not touch it again after so many days. You're getting the point? So same thing like that yoga example. So I said, no, I'm having tea anyway. I take 10 minutes to have my tea. I will just write one paragraph. You know what happened? In 2 weeks, I finished the whole first draft. Okay, and it got over. Why? Because and I used to consciously stop myself saying no, not more than one paragraph. Because that over-enthu thing also comes in. Arey, ek para, hey, I'll do one more para. I'll do one. No, hang on. Just one para. Okay, and in that, it built a momentum. It built a body of achievement, and it actually literally helped me submit that first draft. And you know what happened after that? It became such a strong habit that once I had submitted that draft, I got anxiety because I'm having my tea and I had nothing to write. Because oh my god, I'm so used to writing one para. So it literally became a habit. So you know what I did? For 1 year, I wrote my blog, just a para, for 1 full year because of that habit which had already gotten formed of tiny habits. Okay, so back to system, the what, the why, very important starting points. Then the influencing areas, which is timing, is it right? Is there a better timing for this? The who, right? Who all are your influencers, who are your opponents, all of that, and having a strategy for each. And who could be your biggest, ambassadors for your goal? How do I align? How do I get that support? All of that is very important. See, these are lessons which you will learn all your life as you grow and grow and grow. Whether it's in college, whether it's in your organization, getting people aligned to your goals is going to be the ultimate success for you always. Whether it's a prime minister, he has to align the entire nation, right? You cannot do anything in isolation. You have to capture people's imagination and connect with their why, so that they support your what and why. Yeah. And like we said, the last one is the how, which is really about what are the ways you like to execute, and how do I do this? How do I create the path of least resistance? How do I make it a no-brainer? How do I automate? Our subconscious brain is very powerful. It's the most powerful automated machine in this universe. But how do I give it the right program? And how do I give it the right steps so that it automates the right things? That's very important. Because a lot of times all our life is run by the subconscious. But maybe those programs which are running are not working for us. So the idea is to really make those steps which work for us. Right? And that's important.
Wow. And also, I want to ask that when once we have that habit, and like you said that you write one paragraph every day with your tea, but were there any phases where you felt like the paragraph which I have written is not good, or that low phases when they hit that? For me, for example, if I get those phases where I have no guest for 2 or 3 weeks, and 2-3 works which come my way, and those are the things where people mostly get distracted, and they never come back to their goal. So how can one be focused at those low phases, and how can one tackle those low phases?
So remember I told you about when you build a habit. See, there are 2 parts to this. Okay, there is in our brain there is the attitude part and there's a behavior part. Guess which part will always get you there? Will always help you make your goal happen? Yes.
Attitude.
Which part? Absolutely not.
Oh.
Okay. Now, an attitude could be important to a certain extent. Okay. But if you try to change attitudes, it might take an entire lifetime. Whereas, for example, I gave you an example of 1 minute of yoga does not need an attitude change. 1 minute of yoga is just it's called a behavioral hack. And like that paragraph I wrote, it didn't need me to come up with some attitude of I need to become a better writer. If I want to be a good writer, I need to do this. No. I'm having tea. It's an existing habit. I'm just adding a smaller habit to it. That's it. It's a no-brainer. So in fact, one huge insight I have learned as a coach is that when you go and approach life, changes, actions, steps, goals through behavior and not attitude, you will be far more successful. Because behavior is the way our subconscious brain executes. Alright? As long as we tailor the behavior in a way we would like it to, it makes all the difference. So in your case, let's say, you might have this attitude of, my God, when will I get the next guest? What will happen? Or you might say, Jay is going to post a 30-second insight and lesson every day on Insta. No matter what. I get a guest or I don't get a guest. It is the habit that Jay cultivates, a 30-second learning every day. It's like a diary.
Yeah.
Are you understanding? So what will happen is that ultimately you will create a new habit. You will be literally addicted to being there, and you will not face this aaj nahi hua, if I don't get a good guy, what will happen? No, you will actually go post, and maybe that will attract 10 more people, and maybe you will get far more speakers. I don't know, but the point is that you don't get into the thinking and the attitude part of the brain. You get into the behavior part of the brain. Think about this. You create the behaviors you want, and those behaviors you want are linked to the what and the why, and you're breaking them into actions, micro actions, tiny habits, and then when your system is integrated that way, it will work for you.
Beautiful. And I mean, these insights, what I was looking for, and if you guys have any questions, as we are taking live questions as well. So if you guys watching us have any questions, then you can please write it down. And one thing which I personally want to put out here is that many times people say that we don't get we don't get things right every time. We try hard, but we are not getting the correct output for it. So as you said that we have to make habit as behavioral pattern, but after some time when we are not getting any results, then for like you said that I'll be posting 30-second content, but if I'm not getting in correct engagement, so that thought always comes in our mind. So how to control or how to handle that situation?
So okay, let's go back to the two kinds of, let's say, creative people. Okay, so there is a creative person who gets this brilliant idea and fatak, once in a blue moon idea, and he comes up with something. Okay, and then there is the other person who just literally works every day, like that half an hour, he does something. Okay, and like 30 seconds, like me, one para. So they actually did this study, okay, and they found that the people, like, this is like a pottery school, people making pots. So this guy who just think, come up with something, versus the rule with the other group, okay, was just come up with 20 designs every day. Now what happens is that when we literally engage our whole senses into creation, we become better and better at it. Remember this. See that one inspiration, that one brainstorm idea, and all that is all, it's nice to talk about, but it's not reality. Okay? So when it's like you've heard of from the greatest athletes, sports people like Sachin Tendulkar, they talk about, it's not, you see me winning those matches, but what about the thousands of hours I'm practicing and practicing and practicing? That's what creates greatness. It's that practice. And with practice comes wisdom. You realize, you get better, you learn, you start figuring out what you like, what you don't like, but you're doing it in the most genuine way for yourself. So, behavior, practice, process. Okay? You don't have to be a genius. In fact, this creates geniuses, the true geniuses. We see, as they say, right? Lionel Messi and Sachin and all these people, that you've seen them at the end of doing all of that.
Yeah.
So I forget the exact articulation of the line, but it was a line, right? I think one of the sports brands had put out, like, an overnight success after 17 years of effort, right? So the point is, it's the 17 years of effort. It's that half an hour every day. It's that 30 seconds every day. But that habit, that behavior that you put in is actually what creates far better output. And see, also it gives you confidence. This is what I'm getting at, because you asked that question of, see, when you are operating in vacuum, then you'll say, what if I don't come up with something good? What if someone doesn't like it? It doesn't matter, because you're addicted to just speaking it out. Nikalo, 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 nikalo. Get your output out. That's it. Keep writing. Something will happen. It doesn't matter what happens. So you are literally, as they say, right, focusing on the journey, not the destination. So while the destination, you have clarified the why behind it, then you focus on this part of the how, which is literally creating practice and habit and all of that, so that it becomes realizable, achievable, and not some distant dream. Have I answered your question of the demons in the mind?
Yeah, 100%. Because when I can actually relate to it, because when I started my podcast, I was always thinking of whom I can bring. Is this person correct for me or not? But now after that, when we had our first podcast, you said that I should also bring people like me on the platform. So after that, I started Wake Up Youth. Now every month I'm doing this Wake Up Youth, where I call people like me, or if no one comes up, then I speak upon some topic on life. And I think that is the part which actually helps me to put something in between, where I don't think about I am not getting any guests, because at that point of time, when I had no guests for 2 weeks in the month of July, I was thinking about what should I do. But then when I saw our podcast again, I took that idea, and now I'm not thinking about if I'll get my next person or not. I have something to do. I have something to put on, and I'll be doing it continuously every once a month. So I have that habit. I'll have it continuously, and that won't affect anything to ponder upon or to take tension on.
Nice. Let me ask you a question. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this podcast?
I'm doing this podcast because I have seen a gap between the podcast which I follow, I get inspiration from, and the ground reality which I have experienced from myself. People generally tend to bring people and go for their fascinating stories, and there they say, I did this hard work, and the most part is after the success. So there's a gap between that hard journey which no one says, or even if they say it in such a way that the person who is watching this cannot relate anything. So that's why I'm taking this podcast, where we can relate and we can take the burning problems, like how to achieve our goals. Everyone talks about it, but they don't say like you that know your why, know what, how of everything of goals which you said that relates to us. But if I go and talk to someone else who comes and they say that I have done this, I have planned it, I have done this, they don't generalize the problem. And I want to generalize it so that maximum people can get it.
So if I were to attempt in articulating your what and why, now maybe earlier you would have had a what as a podcast which attracts the best speakers. Now that a lot of people may have, but the why, if you apply the why, you find a gap. You find a gap between inspiration and action and relatability. Yes? Yeah. So actionable and relatable inspiration is your real why. And that's what you're attempting to address. Isn't that correct, Jay?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So that's your purpose. That's your reason for doing all of this. So whether you do it through an interview, whether you do it through sharing some anecdotes, whether you do it through your colleagues coming and sharing how they have addressed it, etc., etc. Whatever the how is, this becomes there your big what clarified by this why. Are you understanding? And then you figure out different ways. Who are the people who would be far more actionable, relatable? When should you do what? When should you do podcast interviews? When should you do, so all those things, then you can design. All right. But it's important that you get this basic clarity and you articulated it. Are you getting the point? So that's what you focus on, and then there's energy behind it, right? But then you also need a strategy, like you said. I may not have a interviewee, right? So then, but the point is, you see a gap. The gap is your goal.
Yeah.
You want to address that gap. Something needs to happen to address that gap, whether it is through you talking about it, whether you get people to talk about it, share their experiences on how, whatever it is. So you do something about it every day to get closer and closer to solving that gap. Simple as that.
100%.
Make sense?
Yeah.
And do it with the path of least resistance. So that it's a no-brainer. It's not something that, oh my God, how will I do this today? It's like you just get out of the bed in the morning and you are just doing it. You're not even thinking. That is what makes action happen. Right? And that is how you could design action.
Correct, 100%.
Any other questions from the list you had?
No, we have covered all the questions from our list. And I'm really, when I was thinking about this podcast, when I was gathering questions, when I was taking questions from our viewers, I had a different idea of what we are going to put out. I had the same idea which I was expecting from those big podcasts, that those generalized questions of how not to procrastinate, and the answer will be like, do this, do that, done, and how not to lose your focus, XYZ. But the way which you have addressed it, I think I actually personally can relate to it. I know where I can find those gaps where I'm lacking in, and also I'm sure people who are viewing this, who are listening this, will also get those beautiful insights from our today's podcast.
So, sorry, Jay, but to answer and address that last part that you just brought up, losing focus. See, now they become your how challenges. Once you're clear about your what, your why, your when, your who, you would have specific how challenges. Like, for example, I had a how challenge of submitting a draft, right? Now, I addressed it by converting it into a no-brainer activity, whatever it is. Now, for example, somebody says you need to someone is advising somebody, and that person believes in writing lists. Okay,
Yeah.
but you don't like writing lists. Now, if you follow that method, it may not work for you. You might do it once, twice. So you need to find the method that clicks best for you. So, for example, for me, when I used to prepare for my workshops, and my wife used to literally hate this preparation activity, I used to put all the content on post-its on my wall in the living room. Okay, so the whole structure, everything on the wall. Now, people would think that, oh, I like to be organized and I like to see all details and all that, but that was not the reason why I used to do that. My why was I like to see all the patterns, connections between the points, so that I can decide should this point be there or not. I like to see the whole picture. Okay. Now, because I did that, it helped me become organized. Because I did that, all details got covered. But that's not because I like details. It's not because I like process and structure. I don't. I'm zero at it. But that is my way, which works naturally for me to arrive at that. So some people might use audio notes to remember things. Just keep recording, and great. If that works for you, fantastic. But if somebody tells you to do it because it works for them, and you don't resonate with that, it just becomes, a theoretical action and a hack. So you have to find those things which work for you. But at the same time, if you look too much for those things like visualization or this or that, versus, like I said, make it a habit, make it an automated process, and trust me, that's what computers do. Half everything that actually it's an algorithm. You're just following that pattern in the program. So create those for you. Program your behavior accordingly so that it works for you. So you don't have to keep thinking. You don't have to keep, oh my God, am I doing the right thing, the wrong thing, and all that. But set it right.
Correct. 100%. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on podcast again and spreading your wisdom with us.
Thanks for calling me. And by the way, I mean, when you talked about goal setting, I had no clue that this would be the content. So, because, you have certain topics in your head and you hope that, that you would get to cover them. So, what has evolved, see, that's the other part. You can't plan so much that you take away from the magic of what you want to create. But you plan enough so that you give the magic the chance. That's important. Because otherwise, if you don't have those points, the magic would not have happened. You're getting the point? So it's important that you help the process and not come in the way of the process.
Correct. 100%.
Yeah. So thanks again, Jay, and thanks whoever else is online, etc. And hope it has kind of given some little bit of tip, insight, inspiration in any way. Yeah. So are we done?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.